Hello everybody, welcome back to Destiny 2, and in today's video we're going to be going over a Solar Warlock build that doesn't rely on Starfire Protocol and Well Radiance. So yeah, if you're kind of bored of that but you still like, Icarus dashing around and just playing Solar Warlock in general, this is kind of the build for you, at least for this season. With some minor tweaks, this can become a pretty good survivability build that I will also be showing off. So to get right into it, we're going to go right here. So if you just want to look at it and don't really care about explanations, here is this version of build, which is a Firebolt spam build with these artifact mods. And then here is the survivability one, which is super similar, but not exactly the same. Okay, so that out of the way, we're going to go over both these builds here. I'm going to start off by saying you can also use Verity's Brow for this build as well. I like Dawn Chorus just because I am using like Dawnblade just because I am sick of Well. This is really good for solo playing where you don't necessarily need Well outside of, when you're by yourself. Obviously it's good regardless, but that's definitely way better for a team thing, and having a damaging super like Daybreak is not terrible, especially with the buffs. So get into it. We're gonna go start with our subclass. We are using Phoenix Dive. This just gives you healing. When you dive, it's super nice. It has a faster cooldown than both these. Obviously this is sustained healing, but just that quick burst of healing is really sometimes all you need. So I like using this, and it's a cool movement ability out of like an Eager Edge or a Icarus Dash. Melee is up to you. I like using Celestial Fire. It's got more range, more consistent damage. Firebolt Grenade, obviously, which is going to be going into our artifact unlocks that I will go over in a minute. I'm using Touch of Flame. This is the most important thing because this will give us our Firebolt to have increased target search radius and maximum target count, so it'll hit more people. And then this one is up to you. If you're using Phoenix Dive and you don't necessarily care that much about Icarus Dash, you can use Heat Rises. So you can activate your grenade and eat it, which will allow your Phoenix Dive to scorch enemies and give you restoration when you use it. So that's pretty cool. In terms of fragments for this build, we are using Ember of Torches, so power melee attacks against combatants makes you and nearby allies radiant. This is used in basically every single solar build. It's free damage, which is really nice. It's probably the worst on Warlock just because they don't have a way to like regenerate their melee super fast like Hunters or Titans just having a bonk. We're using Ember of Mercy, so when you revive an ally, you or other nearby allies gain restoration. This isn't as important as the next bit if you're a solo player, but picking up a fire sprite also grants restoration. Ember of Searing, defeating scorched targets grant melee energy and create a fire sprite, so we're going to be doing a lot of scorching with these nades and the other weapons we have, so that feeds into this, so you get restoration by picking up a fire sprite. We're basically just spawning these constantly. And then Ember of Ashes, so you apply more scorch stacks to targets, which will allow them to ignite and explode. That's a big part of this as well. This one's pretty good too. Ember of Resolve, Solar Grenade, Final Blows, Cure You. This is much better for something like Fusion Nades, which do way more damage. These don't really do much damage, these firebolts. That's not really what this build is about. It's more about getting those scorch stacks up and then it detonating everything. It's a very good ad clear grenade for that reason. In terms of weapons, obviously the secondary is up to you. Wither Horde's very good. I'm just using this because the second part of this, where the solar pellets will ignite an enemy, so that's what scorching does. It will just ignite, and that's on every time you hit most of the pellets, landing nearly all solar pellets will ignite, so just another way for an explosion if you're up close. And I'm just trying it out. You really don't need to have this for the build. What you do want is any type of weapon with incandescence. So defeating a target spreads a scorch to nearby enemies. More powerful combatants and opposing guardians cause scorch in a larger radius. So what's really good for this build is you throw a grenade, it scorches enemies. You kill one of those enemies with this SMG, which scorches the enemies that are already scorched, and then more often than not, it will ignite them and explode everywhere. Heavy, really up to you. If you're doing like this for boss damage, you could put on a rocket or winter bite. I know that's still busted. I would just have the other half on because, you know, egrej. Okay, so this is where you can change up the exotic. Dawn Chorus is what I'm using just because, once again, I am using Daybreak and because it has something to do with scorches. So your Daybreak projectiles cause targets to scorch on contact. Your scorch effects deal more damage, and you gain a small amount of melee energy each time you scorch effects damages a target. So that's not just with Daybreak, that's just any scorch thing. So we're going to be getting our melee back a lot faster as well, which will keep Radiant up more, which is really good because it's just a free damage buff. And then, yeah, so that is in terms of all that. We are going to go into the mods now for this build. On the helmet, we have hands-on, ashes to asset, and a solar siphon. There's not really anything too much you want to change out here. Obviously, match this to what you're using for a primary, which you want to use incandescent, so a solar primary. This can be swapped out for like the melee one, probably for me at least. Using heavy ammo finder would be kind of helpful. If you're running with a team, powerful friends is pretty decent. On the gauntlets, we are using impact induction, firepower, and grenade kickstart. This will get us our grenade back even faster. I'm using 2 things that charged up, so you get even more stacks of armor charge. You can swap out one of these for like resistances on both your pieces, but I do recommend at least having one. On the boots, we're using stacks on stacks, innervation for reduced grenade cooldown each time you pick up an orb of power, which obviously will be a lot. Then I'm also using recuperation for even more healing. Once again, you can swap these out for surges and stuff. Though I would keep stacks on, but sometimes obviously you'll have to take it off for, you know, the 3s or whatever, depending on your stat increase. Then on the bond, I'm using 3 bombers. I would be using... Actually, Reaper isn't terrible. Reaper actually might be worth using in one of these slots. You can no longer use the 2 empowering finish things, which is kind of annoying. A utility kickstart is not bad as well. Grenade kickstart even more, where you use a finisher and you get your grenade back. I've just noticed that just having grenade kickstart is more than enough. That is it in terms of the mods. Now to go into the artifact here, the relevant ones are really the authorized mods Solar and Grenade, as well as Solar Surges, which collecting a fire sprite gives you armor charge, so that is even more armor charges. And then the most important is Flared Up and Rain of Firebolts. Flared Up, Firebolt grenades apply more scorch stacks, damaging combatant with a Firebolt grenade spawns a fire sprite near them, so it's just damaging, not killing them, just damaging them will give you a fire sprite, so that's even more restoration, even more ability regen. Then Rain of Firebolts, when you have Firebolt grenades equipped, gain a second Firebolt charge. So now we have 2 of them, and we don't even have an exotic for that, which is super cool. So yeah, this is definitely a more, I would say, ad clear version, I guess, of something like Starfire Protocol, where you're just throwing firebolts everywhere, scorching everything, everything's exploding. Then obviously you have an ad clear super, but this is also really good for solo play. Obviously, what are they called? Fusion grenades, wow, are good as well. But just mixed with Dawn Chorus, having like a damage super is really, really helpful. And, you know, if you're missing well, but you still want to use Daybreak, you can always swap Phoenix Dive for a Healing Rift, which is, you know, a kind of a crappier version of that, but still. Sorry if you can hear my cat purring. He decided to visit me during this video. Hello. But yeah, that is it for this build. I do have another build that will be good for if you are outside of this season and Firebolts kind of aren't the greatest anymore. Obviously you can just run this build with like fusion nades, but at that point I would probably put Starfire back on. You can use solar nades with what are they called, with those gauntlets that what are you called? What are you called? Sunbracers, yeah. That increase the amount you can throw or whatever when you get a melee kill or whatever. So that's pretty good. I have another version of this build. We're actually going to save over this one. There we go. I have another version of this build, which is more for damage and just for damage phases and for survivability, if you need that. That is a way cooler shader for this, I think. Anyway, so this one is definitely more for damage or for survivability. Nothing really changes here. That's not true. You use healing nades. Ember of Empyrean, so solar weapon or ability final blows extend the duration of restoration and radiant. Torches, singeing or searing, and mercy. So yeah, so you get a melee kill, and then you throw your grenade down on yourself, and then you can get solar weapon kills to extend both those effects, which is really nice. In terms of all the armor here, we're just gonna go over this quickly here. These can be swapped out. This is just because I am using Polaris Lance as the primary here. You can set it at safe distance. It has Dragonfly and Perfect Fifth, so it causes an ignition, and it just explodes everything. It is super, super strong, super safe, because you can just lane with Polaris Lance from somewhere and get healing and damage boost from doing so. It's pretty good. This is definitely would be a decently viable like legendary campaign loadout, or like maybe contest mode. You won't be killing as much stuff in that, so like your radiant and stuff would probably drop off, but it's definitely still a safe build just because you got healing aids and a way to keep up that restoration, so you're not taking much damage, obviously with 100 resilience. So yeah, I'm using solar weapon surges just for this, but obviously swap those to anything you want. In terms of heavy, if you're doing this for damage phase, you can also use this one for damage phase. Instead of going grenade kickstart, you can go into the weapon surges, obviously. But yeah, that's basically it for the build. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know it's another solar warlock, but I kind of wanted to put out one that wasn't anything to do with fusion aids, because as strong as that is and as cool as it is that warlocks have something like that, it's not very fun to play after this long. So I really hope, I don't necessarily want them to nerf it, but I do want them to bring other exotics up to that. And this is kind of what we're seeing with this build, or with this setup here, is it works as well, just in a different way. To that build, it's basically going away come next season, just because, you know, these will go away, so firebolts won't be as good. I hope they just buff firebolts. They do. I hope with Touch of Flame, instead of that increased target count or whatever, they just give you an extra firebolt, which would be kind of interesting, and then just, you know, have more scorch stacks. I think that would be super interesting, though I know in PvP that might be a nightmare. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys try out one of these variations of the build. It's very, very fun. I might have a video coming out on the shotgun. I just got it this morning. I ran a quick raid, and I was like, oh, I'm going to get the shotgun lol, and then it dropped. I'm like, oh, Lord. So I might make a quick video on that, just explaining how it works and what I think about it, because it's been treating me right today. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys try out the build, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.